The photos on our website are in great need of an update, and the Communications Committee is calling on you to take photos of the many activities that take place here. Social events, the book club, choir rehearsals, film nights, meetings, rallies, post-coffee hour chats, potlucks, whatever helps tell the fellowship story. A few guidelines though, make sure that everyone in your photo has agreed to have their picture taken. And please, no picture taking during the Sunday services. Action shots and close-ups may make for more interesting photos, and don't forget to label them. If you have questions or some photos you'd like to submit, you can see Tony Turner at the back of the room here. Wave, Tony. Yeah, you can phone him at 343-777-1867 or email him at tonyturner@tonyturner.ca. Deadlines and deadlines and more deadlines, eh? It's hard to meet them, but when we don't, it can create real problems for our hardworking newsletter editor, Crystal Ironside. The newsletter deadline is the 15th of each month. So coming up, we're looking at April 15th would be for the May newsletter. What that means is if you have an event happening at the end of May, for example, it has to be sent to her by the 15th of April, as I just mentioned. So think ahead and submit your stories by that 15th to news@ufon.ca. Mark your calendars again. Yoo-hoo! Saturday, April 18th, the annual vegetarian potluck put on by the Environmental Justice Committee, who's actually sponsoring this service today. This will take place on April 18th. The doors opening at 5:30. Meets friends from our fellowship, as well as our friends from Brecon United Church and Hope Lutheran. See you there or be square. Now, for those of you with children or grandchildren, there's a new poster under Unitarian events at the back, and that is for Unicamp, which is held in Ontario every year for 3 weeks. And it's a great Unitarian Universalist camp in the summertime. So all the information is there with a little QR code and address for it. And just an update on some things that have been happening recently. We have hired our handyman, so Bob is going to lose a lot of his hats. We are so grateful to Bob for all the work he's done around here, but it's tough for the volunteers. And so the new handyman will be beginning on Tuesday. So his name is Jim, and he's a tremendous gentleman. And for those of you with children and grandchildren who maybe been a bit hesitant about bringing them to the fellowship, we've extended an offer to someone to begin fairly soon, a teacher that is going to come and be a part of our children's program. So that's up and coming. We'll have more information on that once we officially know her start date and everything. And to find out about all special events, groups, and meetings taking place in the hall, you can go to the calendar on our website, read the weekly email sent to you on Fridays, or check out the large whiteboards in the hall by the washrooms. And for those that aren't familiar, through the exit door here to the right is the washrooms, and on the other wall opposite is our whiteboard. Leah, over to you. Our absolutely wonderful music director, Leah Hokinson, is now going to lead us into worship with music.
Good morning, everyone. I invite the fabulous Fufonics to come forward. This morning we're going to be singing "To My Old Brown Earth" by Pete Seeger.
To my old brown earth, and to my old blue sky, I now give these last few molecules of I. And you who sing, and you who stand nearby, I now charge you our human earth. Watch well, you keep it strong. As long as sun will shine. And this, our home, keep pure and sweet and green. For now, I'm yours. And you are also mine.
Just want to introduce our guest speaker today. Michael Geselbracht is a lifelong resident of Nanaimo. In recognition of the traditional lands of the Snu'ney'muxw First Nation, where Michael lives and grew up, he strives to connect with the local area in a healing and restorative way. Michael sees the importance of food forests as a solution to honoring our local forest ecosystems and creating our human habitats that feed us in abundant ways. Michael has been part of the food forest projects at our Eco Village, Victoria Boys and Girls Clubs Camp, Machosen, Snu'ney'muxw First Nations Reserve. His father, Will Geselbracht's farm, Rancho Lorena, is in Nanoose Bay. Nanaimo's South End Community Food Forest, Michael is continually learning about food forests and how to develop more food forests in the Nanaimo area. Michael has a degree in Global Resource Systems at UBC, that was in 2010, and a teaching degree from Vancouver Island University in 2014. He now teaches at Discovery Montessori School in Nanaimo. Welcome. Today's opening words are by Unitarian Barbara J. Peskin. For the beauty of the earth, this spinning blue-green ball, yes. Gaia, mother of everything, we walk gently across your back to come together again in this place, to remember how we can live, to remember who we are, to create how we will be. Gaia, our home, the lap in which we live. Welcome us. I'd like to invite Nina Rastogi to join today up here to light the chalice for us. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, and as that stem grows into a stalk and forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil, let us be, like that first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays, and ready to emerge with a new energy, ready to face the day. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space.
Please rise in body or in spirit, and we'll sing together For the Earth Forever Turning, hymn number 163.
Our Time for All Ages today is a video that will be coming up here in a moment. It's absolutely quite amazing to watch and hear this story. We have just some minor technical difficulties. Here we go.
One Gary grew up on a farm where beautiful green trees grew. Monkeys played in the cool shade. There was fruit. Naturalists, Wangari Maathai Planted Trees by Kate Coombs, art by Seth Lucas. A baby lit book. Wangari grew up on a farm where beautiful green trees grew. Monkeys played in the cool shade. There was fruit and firewood too. But then, while Wangari was away at school in America across the seas, men came into the countryside and cut down all the trees. No more fruit or cool green shade, no more place where monkeys played. Women walked far for firewood. Good farm dirt had washed away. Wangari came home. Where were the birds? It felt like a desert. This was wrong. Women struggled to feed their children. Even the streams were gone. Wangari got 9 tree seedlings. She planted them in her yard. She called the women to plant with her. Getting started was hard, but then the women of Kenya planted trees and trees in long green rows. They learned to care for seedlings. They watched them grow and grow. 100 trees, 1,000 trees, more and more till the land was green. Here were the birds, the firewood, the good farm soil, the cool streams. 10,000 trees, 100,000, 1 million, 2 million, 3. Wangari and the women planted 50 million trees. Little naturalists, Wangari Maathai planted trees.
Little fun fact about Wangari Maathai. She received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004 for her work to reforest Eastern Africa and for her significant role in returning democracy to Kenya. Yeah, this is the last week of the canvas. Can you believe it already? Last week we were at 60% of our $100,000 goal. And with today being the last day, Tony's going to bring up the slide here. Making room for more. So, drum roll, please. $79,530. We're just about 80% of our target. And with that, we've received 50 of 71 pledges. I know of one that's been put in today. So we're following up with those folks that we've not heard from. So the total will change slightly going forward. And we want to thank everyone who's able to submit their pledges thus far. And since this is my last Canvas announcement, I know you're happy about that. So this year I want to thank the Canvas Committee for their hard work, putting together the Canvas brochure, making sure that everyone has an opportunity to pledge. And the committee consisted of Don Gayton, Taylor Sinclair, Lois Peterson, and John Sear. As well, a hearty thank you to the people who stood up here and gave heartfelt testimonials for why they pledge each year. Nancy Steves and Tony Turner. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Sharon Horncastle. Yes, how could I forget Sharon? She's got the same name as my wife. And now, to show our thanks, stick around after today's service. As you know, we always have our little potluck, but we got an absolutely fantastic cake to celebrate this, and some bubbly. Non-alcoholic, of course. Okay, thank you, everyone. Now, so for those of us in the hall, Joan and Charla will now pass the baskets for the offering. And for those with us for the first or second time, we consider your presence to be your contribution. So feel free to let the basket pass you by. Those online can go onto our website and press the big blue donate button at the bottom of the screen. Can you believe that this is the 5th Sunday in March? Go figure, eh? Did you know this year we will have 4 different months that have 5 Sundays? This year there's today, of course, May 31st, August 30th, and November 29th. Each year can be different, varying between 4 and 5 months each year. Well, as you know, have the privilege and honor to be your treasurer. And when I've shown the budgets up here and our financial statements, you may have noticed that there's a line item called Minister's Discretionary Fund. So what is it? I've never heard anybody describe it before. And how do we add to it and administer it? In months such as this one, where there are 5 Sundays, our offering goes to the Ministerial Discretionary Fund. This has been a common practice at our fellowship for many years, but since I have been here, there's never really been pointed out. This is the one time where the cash offerings are used to provide immediate, confidential financial assistance to individuals or families in need within the congregation or the local community, and can be considered as part of our minister's pastoral care work. This is a practice that we, as well as most other congregations, follow. While we have not talked about this in the past, it has been administered to even when we did not have a minister, built up the fund. Pardon me. This is the one Sunday when we're not sharing the plate with the charity. If your donation is by e-transfer or check and you want to be shared with the charity of the month, please make a note of that. Our charity of the month is KG. Community Circles Restorative Justice Society. I couldn't remember the full name off the top of my head. Thank you, KJ, I appreciate that. And for those of you who don't carry cash, we now accept donations via debit or credit cards, and this can be done at our welcoming table near the entry doors at the back after the service. I meant to mention, those who haven't pledged at this point, there are forms still at the back table if you are able to today. Thank you for your generosity towards our congregation and our community. As a spiritual community, it is our intention to be authentically present to one another, especially in these different times. One way we do this is by including in the service a time to listen to the significant personal milestones in our lives. If you have had such a milestone and wish to share it, now is the time to do so. We'll begin with those of you in the hall, and then we'll invite those attending on Zoom. When you come to the microphone, please introduce yourself with your full name. You have up to 1 minute to share, and I will place a stone in the water for you. As I place the final pebble in the water bowl for the joys and concerns, or joys and sorrows that have been left unspoken, I ask that you hold in your heart everything you have heard and felt.
We share in love, we listen in love, we hold one another in love. Each joy and concern we witness and learn and grow together in love. And grow together in love.
Now lead you into a time of meditation with the words of Unitarian Carolyn S. Owen Toll. Let's all take a couple of deep breaths. Find a comfortable position, allowing your spine to be upright, but not rigid. Feel your feet on the floor and your body supported by the chair. Gently close your eyes or maintain a soft, unfocused gaze downward. Let go of the day behind you and the tasks ahead of you. Allow your muscles to soften, your shoulders, your jaw, your forehead. See a blossom in your mind's eye. Allow it to fill the interior of your imagination. Greater perfection of form in nature cannot be imagined. With inward gaze, absorb each wondrous fluted petal. Slide down its humid surface until you drop as the dew into its velvety core. Immerse your senses in this safe chamber. Such fragile beauty gives impulse to weep. Slowly reverse the journey. As you ascend the shaft toward wider light, turn your imagination around and around to see its many facets. Stored within is the memory of all flowers. Marvel that this creation, while utterly fragile, yet undaunted, boldly buds forth turning resolutely toward the sun. We too shimmer with expectation, exuding in our own illumination, color, pulse, and scent. Vulnerable, still we venture our lives courageously toward hope and light, at once fragile and rooted.
Please rise in body or in spirit, and we'll sing together Mother Earth's beloved garden. Mother Earth, beloved garden, living treasure unfurled. All our days you crowned our beings, age and bliss so blessed. Herbs to heal us, plants to feed us, land to till and tender plow. With the pendant deep as we
I want to now invite our guest speaker, Michael Geselbracht, to share with us about Food Forest Grow is the title.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very grateful to be here with all of you. And this is not a usual experience to be speaking in a church. Ooh. And yes, thank you for whoever thought of inviting me. There's a few updates on that little introduction piece. I no longer work at Discover Montessori. And my dad sold his farm in Nanaimo, unfortunately. I recognize a lot of faces here. And with that, I'd like to just do a little quick introduction. I always like to introduce myself. I learned from being at VIU in the First Nation Studies department. It was always a way of connecting first with who I am. And first, I'm grateful to be here on Nanaimo territory. This is where I grew up. Oh, spitting into this microphone here. So my name is Michael Lance Geselbracht. I was born in Snu'ney'muxw, which is Grand Cache, Alberta, in the Rocky Mountains. My parents are Betty Fike and Will Geselbracht. My mom was born in Atimeksheng, Anishinaabeg territories, which is Coppercliff near Sudbury, Ontario. And my dad is from the traditional lands of the Tongva Nation, which turns out to be like Burbank, California, and Hollywood. On my dad's side, my grandfather was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and he hails from German and Irish ancestry. And my father's mother was also raised in Los Angeles in Tongva territory, and she comes from Italian ancestry. On my mother's side, my grandmother was born in Kitchener, Ontario, and is first-generation Lebanese here in Canada. And my mother's father is also an Irish-German breed. So I have two grandfathers that are red-haired, blue eyes, and two grandmothers that are dark eyes, dark hair from the Mediterranean. And that's why I look the way I do. I'm one of 5 children. My mother had 4 boys, and I'm the 3rd son. And I have 2 older brothers, a younger brother, and then my dad remarried and I have a sister who's 11 years younger. I live across the street from my brother Ben, who is a city councilor here in town. And my sister moved out of my house last year after 3.5 years of living together. So I usually give talks while being giving tours of my neighborhood. That's my home base. And so if you really want an expanded version of this talk, I invite you to come for a tour. I'd love to I do a walking tour around the streets, sometimes into the forest, and this is the best way for me to kind of keep my body moving and breathing. And in this talk here, I swear I must be ADHD like every other millennial. So putting together a talk is not my forte. However, I do like to ad lib, and I do have some particular talking points. And one of them is we always ask, why am I here on earth? Or what's my role? Have I found what I'm supposed to be doing? Have I found my vocation? And scratch my head many a times with that. I want to also shout out to Charla here. Me and Charla were dancing. We were part of a dance community, and I can just see her moving. And I remember you, Charla. So it's great to see that you're here with such a lovely community. So ultimately, this little bit of sharing it revolves around perhaps finding a reason to be here, and understanding more my role. Most of you, anybody here an astrologer or into astrology? Yeah, a little bit. I have astrologers in my life, and they tell me that I'm a Cancer, so Cancerian. I'm born July I'm a real homebody, and I didn't know that about myself. My mom always had like dreams that I'd leave Nanaimo and travel abroad and live somewhere far away, and that's what she did. And but it wasn't until I was about 25, and I'd spent a little time in West Africa. I'd come back and went to school at UVic and at UBC and at VIU and back to UVic, or back to UBC and back to VIU, and it was like a real mess of an education experience. But at some point I was like, wow, I really love Nanaimo, and so I'm like, why am I, there's like this story in my mind that I'm supposed to move away from this like beautiful place with like Mount Tuckton behind us, Mount Benson, the Salish Sea, the coastal mountains, and like I really, I grew up on the ocean in the north end of town, and nature was my solace. Like when my parents were going through a divorce and things were going on in my family, like I was outside digging up plants, moving them around, building trails down to the beach when I was a child. And that was a place where I felt I belonged, and it was a place that like soothed my heart. And so, and then being a homebody, like rooting in the earth, whenever I'd go like be living in Vancouver or Victoria, I'd always be starting gardens. You know, even in town here, I was renting, and my dad's like, Michael, you always build all these beautiful gardens, you live there for a year, and then you move on. And he's like, you need to find a house. That took a little while to materialize, but at one point, having lived in different parts of the Salish Sea area, I was in a what are those things called? It's not part of the Sundance ceremony. I was in a fasting camp, a vision quest in Duncan, in Glenora, and that's where you like don't eat or drink for 3.5, 4 days. 4 days no food, but you're allowed to have a little tea on the 3.5 days. And I was sitting in the forest, like bare-chested, sleeping there, bears walking by on the first day, and you know, like praying for some vision and whatnot, and like nothing came to me. It was like so very stark, you know. The only thing that came to me was go back to Nanaimo, like move back home, and there was one other piece to that vision, but I did end up coming back to Nanaimo in 2011. I started farming out in on Brandon Lake. I started a little farm business, and we helped start the Nanaimo the Lanceville Farmers Market, and that was a whole amazing scene. Anybody go to the Lanceville Farmers Market when it was operative? Yeah, a few hands. It was a good time. But I was living at my mom's house in the north end of town. She's a real she's a doctor. She was a doctor. She had lots of ambition and stuff. She was always like, you should be a teacher. You know, you're so good at being with kids and talking and all that stuff. And because I was living with her, I was like under the influence, and so like, oh, and she's like, anyways, you can't even afford a house. like get a job. You can farm in the summer and teach in the winter. It'll be all groovy. So I went back to VIU, got my teaching certificate, and like then I just started. I taught at Snu'ney'muxw First Nations school. Then the Montessori school kind of seconded me, or what is it called? They kind of like headhunted me. They had me training in Spain for 3 summers. It was a real special time. But I don't do well in classrooms. Like I'm kind of like too caged in, you know? And just before COVID, I was at a Vipassana retreat. Anybody know of Vipassana? Those 10-day silent meditation. Put up your hand if you've been to one before. Oh, cool. I want to say that is where I get the most inspiration, sitting silent for 10 days and meditating. And I've been doing that since I was 19. And that's mostly where any of my inspiration comes from being quiet, as much of a talker as I am. Where was I going with this? So farming at my mom's house, I go to school, get a degree. But, oh yeah, to get to school, I refused to like live in the north end of town and go to VIU. So my brother kind of rescued me from mom's house, my brother Ben and his partner Larissa. And we found a little house on Princess Street, just off of 5th Street by the railroad tracks. And we were renting there. While I was going to school, and automatically I had a bunch of like nursery plants that I was like hauling around everywhere I was living for like 5 years. And finally I started planting them. I'd like cut away some blackberries in the neighborhood and plant some trees and build a few trails here and there in the Cat Stream. little watershed. And so I was renting, then I had to move away for a couple years, but I made my first like teacher salary year wage, and I squirreled away every penny of that. I was living in a mudroom for $200 a month. So you can imagine the savings that I had accrued. And no other bank would accept me except for the Coastal Community Credit Union, where I'd been a member since I was maybe three years old. And so I bought this house, and that was a real celebration for my dad, because he's like, you know, you invest too much in other people's gardens and land and stuff. And so 2016 is when I finally owned a house. And I know that's a real rare thing for young people my age or a little bit younger. You know, like housing prices are just astronomical, and it's a whole different reality they're facing. So I'm very blessed to have a home. And at one point I was working like Montessori, like 9 to 5. I was so tired. Like I didn't have a lot of energy as a first several years of teaching. And then when COVID hit, that really snuffed things out of like all the work culture and everything. And that's when, just before then, we started to, me and my wife at the time, we're no longer married, but we went around the neighborhood handing out applesauce to neighbors and collecting their contact information under the auspices of like, in the event of an emergency or someone's breaking in. But it was also to say like, well, when we do work parties in the neighborhood, cleaning up parks or building trails, and having social events like Earth Day or something like that, we'd collect contacts. And then right around COVID, this was happening. We started organizing events. You can meet outside. You can, and the funny thing about my neighborhood, we have like the topography of it. It forces the railroad to do this big, huge kind of moon-shaped bend around us. And so the roads can't like connect all that well as like a grid, like the city. And so there's all these little vestigial pockets of land that never got developed, no houses can go on. And like that's been my MO of like reclaiming these spaces and turning them into food forests. And that's just like planting out as many food-bearing plants and trees as possible. And on publicly accessible land, planted by neighbors, anybody passing through. We have a large homeless population that passes through. And we've been doing this for, maybe 10, 12 years now. And now all these, we have over 180, maybe 250 food-bearing trees. And they're coming into that mature state where there's figs dripping from trees and peaches and apples. And now you're getting so many different community members that value the figs and the medlars. And, we live in a temperate climate and we can plant so many different varieties. And so that's been a big thing, the food forests. There's a few other confluencing elements too. We're essentially, my house is in the back 40 of the Snu'ney'muxw Nation's village site that's been there forever. That place was abundant with deer, elk, bear, berry bushes. They tended those lands very carefully with fire burning, and that whole horticultural practice. But in the event of industrialization and urbanization, all that abundance was removed, or privatized land. You can't access, you don't have that sense of belonging or connection to trees when they're kind of hiding behind everybody's fences. So a big part of for us has been planting them in accessible places where you see the beauty and you see the flowers blossom, you see the fruit ripen. I draw a little bit on the inspiration from, who remembers the slow food movement, when everybody was cracked out on fast food and it's okay, let's have a real meal, cook at home. And one of the Italian slogans was mangia la tua vista, which means eat your view. And if you can imagine some Tuscany landscape or wherever where the food is dripping wherever you, or not dripping, it's growing wherever you see. And that's a sense of safety for me. That's an original felt sense of safety when you know that you're being fed and food isn't having to travel thousands of miles, we're growing on some far distant land, and you actually get to see the beauty of the abundance, And I think as who I am, I need that. And so I grow whatever I can in my neighborhood. And it's not just me, I can't do this alone. And eventually, my brother had started a cooperative back in 2014 called the Mid-Island Youth and Community Development Cooperative. We planted our first food forest at the women's shelter on Halliburton Street, the Samaritan House, in 2014. And then during COVID, that cooperative morphed into our neighborhood cooperative, the SEED, which we call the South End Ecological Development. And before I was a bit of like a guerrilla force of nature, you know, planting here and there and trying not to get caught by the authorities. It wasn't that threatening, but when we created this cooperative, we have a board of directors, and now we're like really legit. We're seen in the eyes of the city. We get grants. We've had over $13,000 provided to plant out the Cat Stream watershed, the wetland right below Robbins Field, and it's like the money is just pays for the trees. It's the people power, the hundreds and hundreds of hours of volunteer labor from our neighbors and people that love our neighborhood from outside that come and help. And in the Cat Stream, we're actually bringing, like, I thought like a food forest kind of came out of this permaculture movement that came out of Australia in the 70s. And it was these two Australian professor and student that came up with like bringing back traditional technologies of land care. How do we care for the land? How do we care for the people? And how do we share equitably? And so that really lit a fire under my butt when I was like 21, living at our eco-village, an intentional community out in Shawnigan. Like, put up your hand if you've heard of our eco-village or have been to our eco-village. It was, as a 21-year-old, very impressionable for me, and that has become one of my other modus operandi, is like to create a village out of this 1950s housing development that I now live in. And when I say village, you know, I only have small glimpses of what that has been, you know, having lived in West Africa for a little bit and traveled a little bit. I'm not a big traveler, but as a North American settler, like, the concept of vision is kind of foreign because villages don't exist in suburbia. You know, there's no, like, the relationships are so fragmented by this colonial, you know, and this like so many elements have created this landscape that's quite alienating to a lot of us. And so my dream is to create a village out of my neighborhood, whether it's taking down fences, creating more communal spaces, gathering spaces, sharing food, getting to know my neighbors. This isn't very like, this is not international development work. It's like right out my doorstep. I don't have a car, so I can't go very far. So I'm gonna make wherever I am as great as I possibly can. And I think that's been a huge kind of realignment of how I do life. Please keep me on the timeline. I would like totally digressing in many ways, but recently, who's met Thomas Bevan? He's the new Island Corridor Foundation CEO. He's this lovely man, masters. He lives on Milton Street, but he now manages the Island Railway, and he's got a crazy, incredible vision of whether it's like bringing back like public transit on the railroad. But he was walking up and down the railroad, all from like Victoria to like Courtenay, and he passed through our neighborhood like 2 summers ago. He's like, what the hell's happening here? There's like all this fruit being grown around, and then he went to city council. He's like, what's happening in this neighborhood over here? And my brother was there. He's like, that's my neighborhood. And my brother's been like at this for the last 10 years. He's like, oh, okay, like we got to like amplify what he's doing and harness that energy. So he was able to convince the city to install like, I think 200 meters or 400 meters of trail along the railroad tracks before Earth Day last year. He was able to circumvent all like the expensive hydraulic engineering studies that had to be happened, you know, and he's like, it's like gravel. We're simply dumping gravel and building a trail. It was such a success that he was able to get another like 75,000 or whatever, and now we have a trail all through our neighborhood along the railroad tracks. I know you walk them, and that who's walked that little trail, that stretch of trail. It is, you know, like it's for me. I mean, we did mow over this like very sensitive ecosystem, which we're rectifying, but it's like opened up a whole lot of new real estate for planting, because it's mostly been like blackberries overgrown everywhere, and so, and one of my like favorite things to do is just like go out there and do a little bit of gardening work, and then I meet every person and their dog walking by, and we have a conversation, and you know, get to know my neighbors. I've met so many neighbors just walking on this trail, and a lot of them I'm like, hey, do you want to be on our contact list for future work parties or social events? And so I'm like really building up my list these days, and I just see it as like, it's so beautiful because there's no cars around, there's no cars. We're not out, like, you're not having to contend with any cars, and just a lot of flowers and a lot of possibility to plant a lot more trees. And so we are going to be celebrating Earth Day on April 18th before your potluck with the Brecon United and all that stuff from 10 till 5. The city is going to be inaugurating this rail trail that they're very proud of. And we really want to pump this up because if we do, they will continue the trail all the way to Nanaimo River. And can you imagine walking along the tracks to your favorite swimming spot, and you don't have to get into your car and you get in your little e-bike or, So anyways, I can share that information for April 18th. Where do we go? What do you mean? It's in my neighborhood. I'm going to be doing a tour that day too.
But where is your neighborhood?
Where is my neighborhood? Jeez, I could have asked that question a while ago. So our neighborhood is between 7th Street and 5th Street, and between Victoria Road and Park Avenue. We deliberately portioned off. I mean, we're kind of in the South End Community Association and inside of Harewood, but we're like, for my little brain, I was like, no, I need a small enough chunk that I can get to know most of my neighbors, and it's going to be that. So that's where, thank you for asking that question. And I think I have written a lot of scribbles here, but there is... Is there
a specific place we should go for the celebration?
It is at the Bing Key Food Forest. And that food forest was initiated by Ian Gartshore. On his 65th birthday, he raised $900 to plant trees, and those first trees went there. And then the Sikh Temple Society, which is Khalsa Aid, they donated $2,200 to plant out 22 trees to celebrate 22 years of service in Canada. And so you see these different people pitching in, finding ways to plant trees, and I always welcome more people to, give us money and to plant trees and to celebrate. These are all party spots. I want to eventually have now we have essentially 3 or 4 food forests that are all connected by the railroad, and I can imagine this urban music festival where you just walk along the tracks to these different venues, and there'll be music, there'll be food and dancing. And no cars. You can park at Bayview School, or you can just walk over there. 2 more minutes, jeez. Okay.
The city of Nanaimo may still have that program where you can get trees.
They do.
Really inexpensively through Green Thumb Nursery, and if you can't use them in your yard, give them to Michael.
But don't tell them that. To conclude, I would love to say that one other vision that I have, so I talked about having an urban eco-village of sorts, but I'd spend a little time at an ashram. Who's heard of the Yashodhara ashram in the Kootenays? Man, you know a lot of these places. So as an immigrant settler, I don't have any Snu'ney'muxw blood or any First Nations blood, but I have a desperate need for a sense of home and a spiritual home. And I imagine having a, developing kind of an ashram, a spiritual home culture where people do service work and live in the neighborhood or whatever, just as claiming a sense of something deeper than that's connected to land. And I think that requires a lot of reconciliation work and collaboration and partnerships, and I imagine that for all neighborhoods. So how did I do, folks? Thumbs up. Yeah. Any question? One last question I'd love to answer if you have one. As long as there's gluten-free snacks.
I'm sure there'll be some snacks that are gluten-free, and not all of them, but there's cake.
Oh,
And cake are good.
damn.
No.
That's okay. I'm just joshing you. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and looking forward to talking to you more. And I love this. Oh my God, my nervous system is just
Thanks so much, Michael. Please rise in body or in spirit, and we'll sing together Blue Boat Home.
Help us to be the always hopeful gardeners of the Spirit, who know that without darkness, nothing comes to birth, as without light, nothing flowers. We're nearing the end of our service. After we sing and carry the flame, you have the opportunity to join a social group. There are breakout rooms available online for the next 30 minutes. If you want to join an online breakout room, stay there, and the host will be able to put you into that room for you. We'll have refreshments and conversation here in the hall, including that absolutely. John is ill today, John Sorg. He picked out and brought this absolutely amazing cake for us. So, yeah, special thanks to John if you're online. Now, I want to thank the many people who have given their time and energy to make today's service so wonderful. Now, I've got a long list here, so I'm going to start with the Sunday Services Committee, the audiovisual team, our music director, Leah Hokinson, and the always fabulous Foophonics, the greeters, offering collectors, those at the welcoming table, the kitchen volunteers who come early and stay late for cleanup, those who brought food and flowers, our heartfelt gratitude to all of you. And our heartfelt gratitude to the Environmental Justice Committee. Great work today, inviting our guest speaker, Michael. Thank you. And Michael, that was amazing. I'm so grateful I was here today to be a part of this. So thank you to everyone. We'll now sing our final song, Carry the Flame. The words are on the wall here at the back corner and at the back there. Are accustomed to stand, form a big circle, hold hands or touch elbows as you are comfortable.